If you don't want to be a weak man, if you don't want women to think you're weak, if you don't want other men to think that you're weak, you have to obey these 2 rules. It's so critical. I can't emphasize this enough. If you don't follow these rules, you're just going to appear weak. I've also got a 3rd rule that is also just as critical, that at the end of this video, I'll give you that bonus one. Power dynamics is something that is so important for men to understand. If you don't have a good grasp of power dynamics, you're going to do a lot of things that will be taking away your power and giving power to other people. And that's not going to present that strong masculine image that many of you guys are going for. The opposite of victim mindset is the bulldog mindset. That's what we want to have here. So let's break this down. You've probably heard me talk about this before. Maybe you haven't, but the very first rule is to never explain. You don't need to tell people why, as a man, you're doing what you're doing. Now, it doesn't mean that you never offer an explanation to someone if you want to inform them, but you don't owe anyone an explanation. Do you understand what I'm saying, the difference? And you don't automatically volunteer to explain your actions. You take an action, you have a stance on a thing, it doesn't require an explanation. This is very important if you're in the management, any kind of authority role. If you tell your subordinates what to do and they question your authority and then you explain to them why, you have lost all power. Instead, your word has to be your word. Now, someone who volunteers information, lets people understand what they're doing and why they're doing things, is a good manager, is a good boss, a good person to report to. It is good to do that, to allow people to have understanding. But there's a difference between allowing people to have understanding and explaining to them. Explaining to them, it means that I need you to give your buy-in and I need you to understand why, as opposed to I'm trying to give you information. There's a huge difference between that. And a lot of people, I've done videos on this before, they get really confused. But there's a difference between giving information and explaining. Explaining is something more like, I owe you this. And that's what I'm talking about in this context. We could play with the word suit and have all different kinds of semantics about things. But the point of this and the rule, and the reason why this rule is so important, is because it subverts your authority. If you're a person who requires other people to agree with you, to buy in, to give you their approval, that's why you give explanations. And if you're doing that, then you've got a problem, because it's going to undermine your authority and you're not going to appear very powerful and very masculine. Okay? It doesn't mean to be a dictator. It doesn't mean to not share with people certain insights and things that you're thinking and your game plan in many cases, but it means that you don't owe it to them. That's the key. If you're doing it to get approval, not good. So that's the first rule. The second one, very related, is never complain. Whatever it is, just accept it. In fact, I'll take it one step further and tell you, go the extra mile, ask for more. If something is not to your liking, ask for more of it. Do not let them see you sweat. Do not complain about things, because complaining doesn't solve anything. It just makes you appear weak. Whatever someone is going to pile upon you, you can take it as a man. You need to have that mindset and present that front to people. Now, obviously, there are things that you don't like. There are things that you might internally complain about, but having that mindset and that rationale of complaining is going to be the victim mindset, and it's going to come across that way because you're making yourself into a victim. Because what is the point? If I don't like something and I complain about it, what do other people think? How are you perceived? You're perceived as someone who doesn't have power, as unable to change their situation, is a victim of their circumstances, and believes themselves to be a victim. If something happens that I don't like, instead of complaining about it, I can take action. That's what a man does, is he takes action. He does something. Otherwise, he appears weak. There's no point, at any point where complaining is going to produce a good outcome for you. It is only going to make you appear weak. Complaining doesn't get you something. Instead, taking action does. So why even do it? Now, the last one, the bonus rule here, and we're not going to have time to go deep into this because I know a lot of people get really crazy about this one, which is never or very rarely apologize. I'll give you a quick explanation of this, and then I've got a video that you can watch next. We'll put it up at the end of this video if you want more on why I never actually apologize. But here's the deal. A lot of people mistake this the wrong way. What I am saying here is that you should never apologize in the sense that, again, explaining your actions or trying to win people's approval. If you genuinely hurt someone or harm someone, offering an apology is not the worst thing in the world. But here's the deal. It has to be done right. A correct apology has 3 elements. It identifies what happened, what was wrong. It identifies how that must have made that other person feel, its empathy, and it corrects it. It says, this is what is going to change, this is what I've done. Now, most of the time, an apology is not needed because you can just skip to step 3, which is to rectify the situation. Rather than offering an apology to someone, it is much better fix the situation. That shows that you are apologetic. It shows sincerity. It shows that you understand the error of your ways by correcting the action or making up for it. That is the key thing. And that is why, in many circumstances, it doesn't make sense to apologize. Now, the reason why I have this rule here and why some people get butthurt about it is because I see weak men needlessly apologizing for their opinions, apologizing for their tastes, apologizing for what they like or what they want. These are the wrong things to apologize for. And that's why I make a blanket rule and say never apologize. Because if you have that in your mind, then you're not going to make those mistakes. But many guys, they need that. Now, if you're a rational human being, you can understand that obviously there are circumstances in life where an apology is warranted. Like I said, if possible, make up for it instead. That's a better thing. But they're a lot fewer than what you think. That's when you've actually harmed someone and it is an error on your part and you're trying to show that empathy for it. It's not because you said the wrong thing or someone doesn't like what you said or they don't like your thoughts or your taste or your opinion or your wants or your desires. That's the problem that most men face. Okay, now, if you want some more help on this, I've got a whole in-depth explanation. Watch this video next. It's called Unapologetic Why I Don't Apologize. Let me know what you think when you watch that video.